Shalom, shalom, Mishpacha. This is the second part of the message. I already sent one part to you regarding updated news of what's happening around the world as we speak. Now, this message is to encourage you in your manifestation, in your desire, and I want to encourage you. The reason being that some of you are failing to manifest your desire because you're accepting the thing that is in front of your face. In other words, something happens, to give you a brief example, is like maybe you go for something, a job maybe. 1 minute they say to you yes, the next minute they say to you no, or you are maybe offered a job, and then maybe one day later the employer decides, no, I don't want to give you the job, and then they send you home, and you accept that as a reality. That is your biggest mistake. Or you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have, sir or madam, you have cancer, and we have to do an operation and take your liver out and do this and take your kidney out and blah, blah, blah and all that. And you accept it. You say, yes, sir, when do you want me to come in for me to have the operation? How quickly can you do the job? See, that is when you're accepting other people's judgment on you. If you continue to do that, or maybe you go to the garage to buy a car, and the garage tells you, sorry, sir, we've sold that car, but can maybe you go to buy, I don't know, a Ford car, and the garage tells you, sorry, sir, we've sold the Ford car, but we do have a German model. Would you be interested in the German model? And you say, okay, I'll take the German model. In other words, you don't even know what the hell you want. If you don't know what the hell you want, how are you going to get it? You're never going to get it because you're accepting other people's judgment on you. You cannot accept other people's judgment on your life, because this is the mistake that you are constantly doing. You are continually accepting other people's decisions on your life. And if you continue to do that, you will not be the better person that you want to be. You will not be manifesting the things you desire. Could be a spouse. You go for this spouse, and next thing you find out, the spouse that was meant to be for you just went and married somebody else. Now you're like, that spouse tells you, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't really like you, I kind of found this other woman and I liked her more, so I'm going to take her instead. And you say, okay, yeah, fine, I'll move on and blah, blah, blah. And that's the end of that. But you see, you cannot do that. You cannot keep accepting other people's decisions. So that's just to give you an example of what you are doing in your life. You are doing everything wrong in that respect. On your health, on your finances, on your job situation, on your business situation. Everything that is revolving around you is going the wrong way. Because why? Because when somebody tells you no, you say, okay, sir, I'll accept that. You are not supposed to accept it. You're supposed to reject it. And that reminded me of a quote from Neville, and let me see if I can find that. Neville's quote. Let me just look what Neville said. Neville Goddard, one of the people who taught about imagination, he made a quote, and he said as follows. It said, let me see. Faith. What is faith? This is something I was discussing with somebody. What is faith? And when you go to a pastor, right, and pastor will say to you, have faith in God, that God is going to give you everything. Or maybe you want something, maybe it's a woman, maybe it's health, maybe it's money, whatever. You go to your pastor, please pray for me, and the pastor says, sure, God is going to give you this. Let's just say God is going to give you this man or woman for your marriage or as your spouse. And next minute you find out 2 weeks later that man or woman is, living with somebody else and decided not to be with you. You go back to the pastor, and the pastor says, well, it's God's will, maybe it was God's will for that person not to be with you. Actually, the problem is that the same pastor that first said, I'll pray to God, and, God will give you this, and then the same pastor who's judging against you, first is judging in your favor, then is judging against you by saying, well, maybe it was God's will that you don't get this job. And the answer is simple, that the pastor himself doesn't have faith. Why would you go to that pastor and ask who himself is denying you and also judging against you. First is judging in your favor, then judging against you. No, it was always God's will for you to have that person as your spouse. But the pastor is the person who's confused you, because the pastor is a person who's saying no, yeah, and then no. So what's the problem? The problem is not you. The problem is not your decision. The problem was that you accepted the wrong judgment on yourself. Every time somebody speaks, this could be somebody in the family. It doesn't have to be a pastor. It could be your family member. It could be your friend. They come and speak on top of you and say, this is not for you. And you say, okay. Or they come and say to you that this person wasn't meant for you. You say, okay. This job wasn't for you. Okay. They might say, like, this car wasn't for you. You say, okay. Or this phone wasn't meant for you. Okay. It wasn't meant for me. Things like that. And the list goes on and on and on and on. It never ends. Because you're always allowing other people to speak over you and judge you, and you accept their judgment. So from today, you're going to start to reject every judgment that is against you. You're going to start to reject it, and I'll tell you why. Yesterday, I went to a store and I bought a SIM. Okay? So I put some data on it, paid some money for it. It was about $9-10, somewhere there. And, let's just say $10. And I bought the SIM and I came home. And next minute, what happened? It was in my pocket, and I kind of stopped at another store, but I didn't take my wallet out. Kind of just looked at some things, then came home, and then I came home, and then next I'm looking at my I take my wallet out, put it on my couch, then I'm looking at my SIM in my pocket. I can't find it. Where the heck is my SIM? Oh, it's gone. So I look everywhere. I can't find it. I look under the bed, I look under the sofa, the couch, I go look by the car. Did I drop it by the car? No. Then did I drop it at the store? I'm looking back and thinking, did I drop it at that store? The second store I went to? And the answer was no, because I never took my wallet out. How could it be dropped there? Did I drop it by the car door when I entered the car? And the answer was no, because I never took my wallet out. I never even put my hand in my pocket. So where did it go? Anyway, on and on it goes, right? I come back home, I speak to the missus, and I speak to my friend, and then they both say, well, if you can't find it, then you're going to have to buy it again and reload the data. And I'm like, what the heck, that's $10 wasted, and I'm not going to waste $10. And I say to them, when they tell me, you're going to have to go back to the store and find it, and I say, no, I will find it. I say, no, I will find it. And I say to my wife that it's going to turn up. And they say, but it might have dropped in the store, it might have dropped if it's not in the car, if it's not beside the couch, if it's not here, then we don't know, maybe you'll have to buy another one. And I'm like, no, it will turn up. So I come and sit down on my couch. This is after extensive searching, and I can't find it. And then what I do, I sit down, and I take a deep breath, and I say to myself, I reject the decision that my SIM is lost. I reject it outright. I am going to receive this SIM, it's going to turn up, and I don't accept any other decision other than that. It's going to turn up. God's going to give it to me. And then what I do, I speak a word. There's a particular word that I've only taught some of my students, maybe only one student I think I taught this word to. And I speak this word, and I say that word about maybe 10 times, because that word is for you. If you lose something, or if you think you're going to make a loss in something, you speak that word and you will not make the loss. It's a magical word. It's a word that I would only use if you were afraid of, making a loss in a decision about business, about finances, about, something. So anyway, I come back, I sit down, I kind of recite that word about, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in my mind, and then I say to God, And then I lift up my hands and I say to God, you're going to send me this, you're going to give me the SIM. End of story. Nothing else needs to be discussed. The SIM's going to turn up. That's it. I'm going to wait for the SIM to turn up. I'm not going to the store to buy another SIM. Not going to happen. So what happens is, few hours later, I go away, I do my thing, get busy somewhere, come back. Few hours later, I sit down. Now in the evening time, I come and sit down, and something in me urges me to look under my table. Now there's a gap of at least 1.5 foot between me and the couch and my laptop. So if I had dropped something on the table, it will go on the carpet and I will see it. But I see nothing on the carpet, on the table. At that time, there was nothing there that tells me that my SIM dropped over there. Because if it had dropped, then it would have been visible. So what happened is I lean back a little bit and I look a little bit further under the carpet and I see something shining sitting there. And I look, it is the, and I stretch my hand and I look, and guess what? It's the SIM. I found the SIM. And now you might say, oh yeah, but Rabbi, you dropped it over there. No, I didn't drop it. God placed that SIM under my table. There is no way in heaven or hell that SIM would have got there. There's just no way. When I made the prayer to God, and when I made that word prayer, I said that I do not accept any decision other than me receiving this SIM back. The same SIM that I purchased from the store. So that is the SIM I received, and that is the one I put in the, in my modem, etc. So my point is very simple. I did not accept the decision of my friend. I did not accept the decision of my wife. And of course, I didn't speak to any third person. So that would just be me. And the only decision that I would accept is I have the SIM. Okay? So now let's come to Neville's terminology. What Neville said was about faith. He said this about faith. Faith is the loyalty to the unseen reality. So what was the unseen reality for me? I have the SIM. That was the unseen reality. So what is the unseen reality for you? You have the car, even though it's not here yet. You have your job, even though it's not here yet. You have the money that you want, the large sum, even though it's not here yet. You want your great health, even though it may not be here yet. You want a great spouse, even though it's not here yet. That is faith, my friends and my students and my colleagues and my, and my loved ones and my disciples, all of you. That is faith. You need to first understand what the heck is faith. Faith is not some airy-fairy concept that I will get to see or hear God and you don't believe it half-heartedly. Faith is the unseen reality of something that you are going to have. That is faith. I believed for many years that God can speak to me. This is going back in time, when everybody thought that God cannot speak to you. Where I came from, the culture I came from, everybody believed that God cannot speak to you directly. He has to use angels, he has to use other people, he cannot talk to you direct. And I said, no, God can speak to me directly. He created me, he can speak to me directly, and yes, God one day spoke to me. It took several years, but God did speak to me because I had the unwavering faith of the unseen reality that God is talking to me. And that happened. That is the kind of faith you need if you want to succeed in your life. If you want to be successful in your business, if you want to be successful in your health, in your finances, in your jobs, in whatever you decide to acquire. But if you're going to accept the judgment of other people over you, you're never going to get there. So the first mistake that you need to remove from your life is stop accepting other people's judgment. Because you are doing that, and that is what's stopping you from acquiring the things you want. Listen, if I told you you're going to get a $150,000 job, you need to stick to that. Why are you settling for $110,000? Why are you settling for $120,000? When I tell you that you're going to get a $150,000 job, or if I tell you you're going to get a $100,000 job, why are you settling for $80,000? Oh, well, Rabbi, I think that I will settle for $80,000 because I think maybe, that might be right for me. No, but you have asked for $100,000. Why are you settling for less? So I'm not being mean. I'm not being critical of my students. I'm just saying stick to your decisions of what was initially said. Now, of course, I know things happen in life, okay? Things happen in life. Sometimes we feel down because the spouse said something, or the cousin said something, or the uncle, kind of spoke badly to you. Those things can happen. Auntie said something weird. Those things can happen. And you can feel a little awkward, and you can feel a little depressed, and you can feel a little tension when you have a little argument with your spouse because of finances, or because of ill health, or because of something else. That I do appreciate that, and I do understand that can put you in a lot of pressure, especially when you are ill and you're trying to gain great health, or especially when you're unemployed and you're trying to find a decent job. And somebody says to you otherwise, and you feel very upset, and it can be very pressurizing for you to accept that situation and to continue. So what happens is, if you're a married person, you came to your wife and you said, hey, I really wanted the $150,000 job, but I'm only being offered $110,000, then maybe I should accept it. And the wife says, sure, go ahead and accept the $110,000 job, and maybe it will work out for you. Maybe it's a bridge of incidents, and yeah, it could happen. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm saying sure, it could be a bridge of incidents. It could be that it's a start, and that through that one job that you're going to get 110 or 120, maybe the same employer can turn around and give you 150. But here's the problem. Why change your initial decision? So what you want to do is either change your decision yourself. Like you can say, hey, I think maybe I asked for too much. Maybe 150 is too much. Maybe I should have only asked for $120,000. Well, if you do, then you change your initial decision. And you say, you know what, I'm going to just ask God to give me $120,000 job as a start, as a minimum. And then I will get to the next level, which may be 120 plus, whatever that level is. Or it could be that you say that I'm going to ask God to give me a 6-figure business. And then after I get to the 6-figure business, I will ask God to make it a 7-figure business. So, you now set the levels. You now set the decision. So your decision is made that your first level is 6 figures and your second level is 7 figures. Or you make the decision that your first job level is $120,000, but then your second level will be 150 plus. As an argument, or as a discussion point, you make that decision and you say, okay, I have decided that I'm going to get my initial job at 120, and then later down the road I may aim for, 155, for argument's sake. Okay? So once you decide that, you can have other people who can come into that decision. Maybe you come to me and you say to me, Cohen, I've decided that I want a 120 as a starter, and then later I want that job to go to 60,000 for argument's sake. I wanted to raise it up to $160,000 because I feel that I can achieve it. I feel in my mind, in my heart's desire, I feel it's possible. I feel I'm worthy. I feel I'm chosen. I feel a high priority. I feel everything that says to me that you can work a $160,000 job. And you come to me and you tell me that, you say, Rabbi Cohen, I've decided that I'm gonna, maybe my first level is to just get in the door of an investment company, a bank, or whatever, and start my 110, 120, whatever, $130,000 job. But after that job starts, then I'm going to set a goal of 6 months, and I want to move up to my $160,000 salary. Boom. Now you made a decision, and I say to you, sure, I second that. I agree with you. You start with your 120,000, whatever the minimum salary you set, and then if that's what you want, if you say to me that's what I want, I say okay. If that's what you want, then sure, I will second you, and I will petition for you to get that as a job initially. Then you move on to your second salary. But my suggestion is this: don't do that. Okay? You know why? Because you're setting yourself up as a judgment. You're setting yourself up as a judgment. If you have started to believe, and if you have faith, unwavering faith of the unseen, that you are working $150,000 salary, you got to stick to it. I'm sorry, you got to stick to it. And sure, you might say, but my wife, my spouse, my uncle, my auntie, my cousin, they all want me to do the $110,000 job. Well, then you are listening to their decision. You're not listening to your rabbi. You're not listening to God. You're listening to their decision. You're coming under pressure because of them. Now, if I turned around and said to you, hey, my student, my dear one, I have petitioned for you, and God has said that you can start with $100,000 job, but then later you can move to the second position of that job. Then you can say, okay, my rabbi told me that. My rabbi stands behind me. He continues to petition for me, and he continues to pray. And then, yes, I'm going to meet those two levels. Then you can say okay to that. That's okay now. If I said it, hey, you're going to get the 120, then your second level is 160 or 150 or 170. Whatever, we decide between us. I make the decision for you. You say, okay, I'm good with that. Then it's great. It will work for you. You will not falter. You will not decline from your faith, and you will accept, and you will continue. Now we're talking about a job. It could be a business. You might say that I want some of you might say, I'd like to have a 5-figure business, but then down the road doesn't mean 10 years, by the way. Down the road means 1 year later, I want to have a 6-figure business. 2 years later, I want to turn it into 7 years as a 7-figure business. So if that's how you decide, then that's okay, because you can say, I'm starting my business. I know it's new, but I believe that I can start generating 5 figures every month. I believe that strongly. But then I also believe that 1 year from now, it could be a 6-figure business. So you ask the rabbi, ask the Kohen, what does the Kohen say? Kohen says, listen, what do you want? Do you want a 5-figure business? Do you want a 6-figure business? Do you want a 7-figure business? And you turn around to the Kohen and you say, Kohen, I'd actually, I would be happy with a 6-figure business that turns into 7 figures down the road. So I say to you, okay, then maybe what you need to do is you need to go whack full. You need to say, I have a 7-figure business. You're not going to say 5 figures. You're not going to say 6 figures. You're going to say, I have a 7-figure business. That's it. That's your statement. I have a 7-figure business. And my statement to God is the same. I want you to give my student, the Lord of hosts, the Almighty, the Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, I petition to him and I say, lift up my hands and I say, I want my student to have a 7-figure business. He's going to have a 7-figure. He is 7-figure business. He is a 7-figure business. So when I lift my hands, I lift for that one thing, 7-figure business. And for your salary, I only lift up my hands for what we agreed on, principally, where you want to be. I'm not going to change midway and say, well, okay, because your sister said it, because your cousin said it, let's change. No, it's not going to change. It's going to remain the same. Unless you decide, unless you tell me, no, Rabbi, I feel that I am only worth 100 and something thousand, 120,000. Maybe I'm worth 150,000 down the road, 170,000 down the road. And you know what I'm going to turn around and say to you? No, you're worth 150,000 now. You are worth 150,000 now. Because, listen, when I went for my $100,000 job, let me tell you what I did in London. When I was in England, I went for a $100,000 job and I laid out my mat facing Jerusalem and I petitioned to God and I bowed to him and I said, this job that I'm going for $100,000 salary. This is mine. This is my job. That's it. No other questions, no other statements, no please, begging, oh, please, please, please. No, none of those please, please, please. This is my job. End of story. No more arguments, no more discussions. God and between me was only one thing. This is my job. And I have this job. I am worth it. I deserve it. It's mine. End of. I went to the interview. I did the first one. It went great. I did the second one. It went great. And they said, sir, you come in and start working next week for us. Your salary is $100,000 plus bonus. And I started that job. You all have heard the story. But you didn't hear the part where I had a discussion with God that same week before I went for the interview, that I told God, when I beseeched God, I told him, this is my job. This is the job that I want because I want to take my Sabbath off. In my previous job to that, I had to occasionally go to work on the Sabbath because, there's some maintenance that needs doing. I have to go in and do the maintenance, whatever. And I said to God, with this job, I will have Sabbath off. Totally. Clear. And I want my Sabbath off. This is my need. So, this job is mine. And guess what? That job was mine. I was given that job because I was resolute on my faith to the unseen. I saw myself having that position, having that job of a senior software engineer. So why are you compromising? Why are you feeling belittled? You should not be feeling belittled. You should not be feeling compromised. Don't allow family members to pressurize you. Your cousin pressurizing you, your sister-in-law pressurizing you. Don't do that. Your mom pressurizing you. Don't do that. I want you to listen and I want you to be resolute. And faith is all about believing in the unseen reality that you have it. That is faith. Faith is not, well, maybe God will give it to me. Maybe I'm worthy. Maybe I'm chosen. No, that is not faith. That is not faith. That is nothing near faith. This story of the prodigal son, is all about the prodigal son coming back to himself, coming back home. He was gone so far astray that he spent everything, this is like a symbolic story as well. When you go so far away from yourself that you spend everything, you spend your time in brothels and whatnot, not necessarily literally, symbolically. When you kind of gone so far away, I'm not saying that you're spending your time in brothels, but I'm just saying that it's how it's explained. It's a symbolic story. And the symbolic story is this, that you are God's precious son. Sure, for a time you went astray, you became, you became faithless in that you didn't have faith for some reason or another. Whatever reasons, it was, whether it was your hormones or your personal, somebody in your life that did that. So you went away from God for a while. Then you came back to yourself and you said, hey, I'm chosen. I'm a great person. God has chosen me. I'm high priority. Why should I be unwavering? All this wealth, my father's wealth. Who's the father? Heavenly Father. God above us. You say all this wealth that God has created in the world, 1,000 cattle on a hill are His. In fact, 1,000,000 cattle on a hill are His. So what if I ask for 1,000 cattle and I say to God that give me the 1,000 cattle? You got millions of cattle that you own. You give me the 1,000. I want to take those 1,000. They are mine because they are yours and I'm your son. So I deserve it. I'm worthy. You give it to me. I receive it. That you can ask for. So that is the kind of faith that God wants to see in you. He wants you to be very strong. When you're very strong and you're unwavering, and I'm not saying that you won't be pressured by family. By the way, you will be pressured by the family, but you've got to put the family to one side. Now you're only dealing with God, your faith, and the desire is going to come to you. Belief. Belief is faith. That faith that it is yours is going to come to you. So when you go for your business, you have a full belief on it. When you go for your interview for the job, you have a full belief on it, full faith on it. Belief means faith, by the way. You have full faith on it, that it's going to happen in your favor. Everything's going to work out in your favor. So how should you speak? Well, one good wording would be, everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. That's a great little statement that you can make constantly. You can make that statement. Everything always works out for me, and it will work out for you because you have unwavered faith. So please try to understand. I'm not trying to be critical of anybody here. You're my students. I love you, and I want you all to succeed. So I want you to consider, if it's ill health that you're struggling with, then seek great health. Don't waver. Just because the doctor said it's a negative report doesn't mean that that negative report can't change into a positive report. Just because you had some problem and the doctor gave you negative, you could change that in a week. Yeah, it could change in a week. So don't believe the negative report. Don't believe that you are not chosen. Don't believe that you are not worthy. You are worthy, you are chosen. Abundance is your birthright. You should be telling that to yourself every day. The neighbor's not going to come and tell you. The neighbor don't like you because the neighbor don't like your car. The neighbor don't like your house. The neighbor is jealous. Why should you allow the neighbor to dictate over you and judge you? You got to tell yourself. And I want to bring a story of Abraham, our father, and his son Ishmael. Abraham one time went to Ishmael's house. Ishmael's wife was there, and Abraham was sitting on a camel, and he comes nonchalantly to this woman, his daughter-in-law, and maybe he's never met her before, and she sees him and she's never met this old man before, and she says to the old man, she says, he asked for Ishmael, and she says, Ishmael is gone out, maybe he's gone for hunting or whatever, right? He's gone out of the house. And he looks, and the children are running around. There's 6 children, 6 kids. They're running all over the place, shouting, screaming, and she's cursing at them in Arabic and Hebrew and every other language of the earth. And so Abraham looks at all this and says, what the heck? These are supposed to be my grandchildren. Look at the woman, how she's speaking. She didn't even ask me to get off the camel. She didn't ask me to have a drink of water. I've come through this desert. Nothing. No sympathy, no manners, no nothing. This woman was totally careless and clueless. Had no manner of speech. Didn't treat the man right. Didn't, even offer a water for him or his animal. And totally, just simply, he's not, my husband's not home, he's gone away. And that's it. Nothing else. And you know what the message Abraham left? Abraham said, tell Ishmael my son. Now, of course, when he said my son, she suddenly, her ears perked up. Oh, is this his son? He's my husband's father. She still didn't say to him to come off the camel and I'll offer you a drink, sir, or I'll offer you some water, or drink meaning cold drink, not alcohol, cool drink in the summer weather. I'll give your camel a drink. It wasn't like like Abigail who rushed to feed the camels water. It wasn't like that. It was the other, totally opposite. Very careless response. And what does Abraham do? Abraham doesn't say any bad words. He just simply tells her, his daughter-in-law, listen, could you please leave a message for my son? The tent peg is, he said the tent peg needs replacing. And he left. He says, please pass this message to my son. Son, the tent peg needs replacing. And he moves on. So basically what Abraham was saying, that this woman that you have as your wife is no good. She is, screaming at the children. She is, not hospitable. And she doesn't know how to treat guests. What kind of wife do you have? Because Abraham didn't choose that wife. His son did. So Abraham basically said, you need to replace this nail. And yes, Ishmael came back and asked her, did anybody visit? And she said, yeah, there was an old man that came, and it turned out it was your dad, and he just left with one message. He said, what was the message? He said that she said that he said that you need to replace your 10th nail. And that was enough for Ishmael to know that his wife had been rude to his father, that she had not served him any beverages, any food, and he knew that this woman was no good. He didn't cry. He didn't sit there crying, oh, my girlfriend, my wife is so bad to me. He didn't cry like that. He told her, okay. He phoned the father-in-law and said, I'm sending your daughter home to polish the nail. He sent her back home immediately. I don't know what he did with the kids. They probably went with the mother as well. He sent them home too. Go with the mother. He said to the father-in-law, polish the nail, because this nail needs polishing. So the wife went home. And then Ishmael got a second wife who was more pleasant, who was more beneficial, who was more respectful, and who actually respected his father. That's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is listen to the prophet in the gate. Listen to the judge in the gate. Because Abraham at that time wasn't just a father-in-law. He was a judge. He was a prophet. He was a passerby. And he was trying to see the condition his son was in, and his grandchildren. He knew that when these grandchildren grew up, what kind of people they're going to become. They're going to be rebels. They're going to turn out really bad because their mother had no idea how to bring up children. So that's my point. It's a story. It's a message that we need to understand. So with that, I want you to understand that when something negative happens, when there's a decision made against you, and you don't like that decision, sure, you sit there, you may not say nothing. When an employer or a business person or father-in-law or mother-in-law or somebody else says something to you that is negative, that is against you, and you may not say nothing against it, or you may nod your head or whatever, but inside you, if it's against you, you do not accept that decision. You tell yourself, I reject that decision. I do not accept it. I am worthy. I am chosen. I'm high priority. Everybody lays the red carpet for me, and so will you too. And you walk away from that place, but you continue to believe with full conviction of the faith that which they told you is not yours is yours. Do you understand? That which is not yours is yours. That is the way you acquire what you desire. Just because a garage salesman said the Ford truck, sir, has been sold, do you want me to sell you the German one? You don't turn around and say, okay, I'll take the German one. No, you wanted the Ford one. And that's the only one you will accept. So with that, that should be something that you need to think about. Just because a doctor said, and I do have a student in that department in England, and I wish you all the wellness, happiness, and health. Do not accept the report of the doctor. Just because the doctor said that you have a problem with your hearing doesn't mean that the doctor is right and you are wrong. Believe in complete and full health, and you will receive full health. God will be there to give you full health. But you got to put belief in it. You got to reject the decision of the so-called doctor who wants you to believe that, it's not possible, blah, blah, blah. No, it is possible. It is possible. God is the God of impossible. Everything is possible for you with God. So with that, have a wonderful Sabbath and a wonderful next week. You'll get the Sabbath lecture tomorrow, you can listen to. But in the meantime, think about what I said and look at all the decisions that have gone against you and for you. Look at which ones you didn't waver and look at which ones you did waver. It's time to correct yourself. And God will reward you for that. Baruch Hashem. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom.